Hello, and welcome back to week 16 of Monday Diaries. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Brian, and I'm using this series to document my life through raw weekly updates, sharing what I'm working on, the challenges I'm facing, and some lessons and ideas for you to take going into your week. Jumping into this week's key wins and challenges, I'd first like to highlight a win in the relationships area of my life. I had a fantastic time this weekend with my friends, watching soccer, climbing, playing board games, making homemade pizza, and having brunch. Spending so much quality time with so many people that you love really reinforces that life isn't about the journey or the destination, but is about the people that you're with. Another win for this week came at work, and that was the contribution to a stress engineering project. While stress engineering is what the team that I work on specializes in, my role particularly is to support the team mostly through software automation. So I end up writing a lot of code that is very closely related to the stress engineering, but I don't do too much of this work myself. A couple of times per year, I am asked to contribute to engineering projects. One of them was this week. The project is very early in the conceptual design phase, and we are trying to answer a question regarding structural configuration. It's always fun to dig really deep into these problems because you have to reference a lot of textbooks and other sources, and you have to think really analytically about the different factors that make one design better than the other. It's also very interesting when there's other factors at play that aren't necessarily quantifiable, particularly schedule impacts. Choosing one design over the other could be much better from a structural point of view, but maybe for systems integration, it poses much bigger challenges that could add months to the schedule, which is something that most people would want to avoid, as most aerospace projects are over budget and way beyond schedule. Now, moving on to discuss some of the challenges. And honestly, I'm asking myself, what isn't challenging right now? In other words, I'm really struggling trying to balance maintaining my relationships, maintaining my health, and maintaining my trajectory working towards my goals. I posted a video earlier reflecting on my ideal day, and some of the ideas seem to suggest that I can just go to the gym and use one of the desk treadmills and have a friend next to me on a desk treadmill, both doing work, both talking, and both walking on the treadmill. And obviously, in that scenario, trying to do everything at once means that you do none of that well. Even in the relationships that I have in my life, which seems to be recently one of the areas that I'm doing the best in, I know that I'm letting a handful of people down because I'm not able to devote time to them while trying to maintain the current relationships that I'm prioritizing. And obviously, this feels really bad, but I know that trying to divide my time and attention into a million pieces is just going to make each of those relationships so much worse. So I'm choosing to focus and prioritize a handful. So really one of the things that I'm trying to work on is how I can balance and make progress in these areas of my life, relationships, health, and my goals. Reflecting on this recently has made me realize that I have two choices. I can either continue trying to perfectly balance these three areas of my life and remain unhappy, or I can prioritize one temporarily and put less attention on the others. And once I've put sufficient effort towards one of these areas, I can switch and build back up focus in the other areas. And the area that I'm hoping to really work on over the coming weeks is my goals, because I have so much motivation and a clear path to follow, but I have just zero momentum right now. I feel like I'm really stuck, and this can be measured in a few ways. I've been trying to keep track of my deep work sessions starting this year, as that's something that I've been trying to do more of this year. Focused time on hard tasks. But I really haven't logged too many sessions. I think last week I only logged one, which is really disappointing. I haven't written any blog posts this year, even though I have a handful that are so close to being completed. I just haven't focused my time towards these goals of trying to learn and become a better version of myself. So with that being said, my current focus is regaining this momentum on work towards my goals outside of my day job. And with that, I'd like to get into the key takeaway from this week's episode. And this is a thought that I wrote about a couple of months ago when I was dealing with a lot of rejection all within one day. And this also caused me to lose most of my momentum that I had going for me. And I needed to find a way to regain this. Essentially, if you want to get yourself out of a rut as quickly as possible, you need to change your momentum. Of course, as an engineer, I like to think of change in momentum from a physics point of view. And the change in momentum can be defined as mass times the change in velocity. So if you have very little momentum and you want to change it, what you need to do is increase your velocity. And one thing that's cool about the momentum relationship is that even if you have a massive problem or hurdle that you're trying to get over, even the tiniest change in velocity will lead to a huge change in momentum, which means that even small changes make you feel like you're back in control of your life. Another thing that's pretty cool about working through a period of time where you feel sluggish and have no momentum is that successfully navigating through this sluggish time positively impacts your ability to be resilient. A couple of months ago, when I was first thinking about this idea of how to get your momentum back, I had faced a series of rejections all within a day, and it felt like I was completely stuck. Being able to recognize the time that you need to enact a momentum boost is really important because, like I was mentioning in the challenges section, you're going to have to sacrifice something from your equilibrium to get going again in one area of your life. In that time when I was feeling stuck a couple of months ago, there's a remaining feature I wanted to add to my Premier League prediction model. Staying up late into the night finishing this task gave me a great feeling of accomplishment, and once again told me that I can do something that I set out to do. And this is precisely the feeling of agency, believing that if you say you're going to do something, that you can set out and actually achieve it. So how can you get started if you need to get yourself back on track? The first thing is to reflect on it. Either write about it or pursue some other creative outlet. This is essentially what I'm doing in this video. Second, work on a passion project. Work on something that doesn't feel like a chore, something that gives you more energy than it takes from you. This is something fun. And lastly, get your blood flowing. Go for a walk, go for a run, lift some weights. Do something to feel those endorphins because those often give you the motivation when you come back home to get back to what you need to be doing. I used this strategy successfully a couple of months ago when I was feeling stuck to get my agency back, and I'm going to attempt to do it again this time around. Get moving again and watch your momentum return you back to the state of being an unstoppable machine. That's what I'm going to be working on this week, and for now, I'll leave you with one question. All this talk and thought about momentum, of course, makes you think about why you're doing something, the motivation side of things. So one thing that I try to ask myself is how can my effort be useful? Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.